Okay. Testing. I hope y'all can hear me. We're going to read an article. We have the trial going on now. They're about to start again on another screen, but I'll show you this screen. So let's basically get an idea of this trial. It's Marisela Botello murder trial. Jealousy over man led to deadly stabbing. Prosecutors claim. Well, I can't see the video. I guess these are the three people. The video's not running. And actually, I don't know if the sound.
Prosecutors say a messy love triangle and jealous rage may have been what led to a woman's murder in Dallas.
Lisa Dykes is the first of three to stand trial for the murder of Marisela Botello. Shannon, live outside the courthouse this morning, where testimony will continue this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Brandon and Lauren. So prosecutors say Lisa Dykes found the victim in bed with her lover and then stabbed her repeatedly, killing her. Prosecutors told the jury in opening statements that Dykes stabbed Marisela Botello in a jealous rage back in 2020 when she saw her in bed with Charles Beltran. And they say Beltran was in a three-way relationship with Dykes and another defendant, Nina Marano, who was married to Dykes. All three are charged in the murder. Botello was from Seattle and was visiting a friend in Dallas that night. Security footage shows her walking with Beltran in Deep Ellum. The prosecutors say she went with him to the home that he shared with Marano and Dykes.
He was awakened by shaking on the bed. He saw Lisa as she was coming down with an object in her hand that looked like a kitchen knife. And in his days of waking up, he wasn't sure what to do, and he shoved Lisa off of her. And there was a brief fight where Marisela.
I believe the evidence is going to show. Mrs. Dykes is going to tell you she's never met Marcella. She's never met this young lady. And she could care less about the women that Charles was having at that house.
Dykes' defense team argues there's a lack of physical evidence, including how and when Botello was killed. Botello's remains were found in Wilmer, Texas, months after her disappearance. Beltran is expected to testify in this case in the coming weeks. We may also hear from Dykes herself. Live in Dallas, Shannon Murray for Good Day.
Okay, so the trial is actually going on now. I don't want to be on screen. I just let me go over to the trial. Share this tab instead. So now you should be seeing the trial, which is live. They just came back from an intermission break. So we'll watch that. And you can go over there to the chat. I was going to read this article. Here's the article. If you want to read up on what happened. But basically, it's a love triangle. Or actually a love square, because it was a lesbian relationship. There was a man, and then the third woman that got killed. So it's a love square. And all apparently the other three are in on it. Oh, here's a link to the, what do you call it? Let's see what you guys are saying.
You may be seated. Detective Daniel Hinton.
Quiet, baby.
All right, sir, would you stop and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth? With the truth so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Stop barking.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective, can you state your name and spell your name to the court for me, please?
Yes, my name is Daniel Hinton. Spell it as well, you said, I'm sorry?
Yes, please.
Daniel space Hinton.
And can you tell the members of the jury what it is that you do?
So I work for the Dallas Police Department. I've worked for them for the last 13 and a half years. I currently work in their digital evidence lab associated with financial crimes. and we process digital evidence and try to do analysis work for detectives. Before that, I've worked in various other units, crimes against children, and then of course everybody works the street as well when you start.
And is there any special training or qualifications?
And let me see if I can mute this.
Yeah, I think the lab requires, so our lab has a very good relationship with the Secret Service, and the Secret Service provides a lot of advanced training or some basic training and then further advanced training. I also have a degree in computer science, which I worked in software for a little over 20 years before becoming a Dallas police officer. So yeah, there's ongoing training, doing all kinds of stuff. And some of the recent stuff was like skimmers and micro soldering and lots of stuff, because there's a lot of devices are now, light bulbs could be a device that could be of interest. I mean, when people come in, and front door locks and all that stuff. So as a society, there's a lot of digital devices always being around. So training is really important for sure.
And as far as your work in the lab, what type of work do you do there?
It's a little bit of a loaded question. I'm sorry. So we're a little short staffed, so I do pretty much everything in the lab. So but as a lab, we serve basically all digital devices. And our focus in our lab is really the analysis work, trying to offload work from the detectives so they can continue on with their cases. They can come to us and let us know what they're looking for, and we can try to help sort through. Like in most cases, there's like up to 1 million or more pieces. It takes a little time. It's not a very quick process.
Are you able to, do you have certain software capabilities and things of that nature to extract information on things like USB drives, SIM cards, laptop computers, things of that nature?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and in particular, you have a program called the Axiom program. Can you tell the jury about the Axiom program?
Okay, so Axiom is an analysis tool. It's put out by Magnet. Magnet does a lot of different digital things. They do training. They're a pretty strong force in the digital forensics field. We use their tool for, once we acquire data, we'll ingest it into Magnet, and then that'll be a tool that we can search through. The tool is pretty robust, and you also look for like comparable pictures and running. If you have an image with street names, license plates, whatever else, it can pull out all the text in an image and different things like that. And it allows you to really kind of find pieces of information that it's not just in a text document or an email. It might be a car license plate that's not even really part of the picture. So yeah, their software is really useful. And then we have other tools that actually acquire there's a few primary tools. Celebrite makes them, Key makes them, that are required to actually acquire data these days, because everything's encrypted, or most everything's encrypted.
In this particular case, or I guess just in any case, how do you receive evidence to be extracted?
Right, so the way our lab works is a detective will come and our lab's secured, so we'll let them in, and then we have a request form that they fill out, and then we'll take their property from them, and they will articulate what they're looking for. Which is kind of the bulk of, if you looked at our request form, that's kind of the big section. That's what we're really interested in. Of course, they have to provide legal process, search warrants, stuff like that for the devices that they submit. And I mean, that's kind of the process. They bring it to us, we take custody of it, they sign it over to us, and then when we're done with it, when we give them our deliverables plus their original data, they sign back for it to take it back.
Okay, deliverables and those things like certain reports, information about devices, things of that nature?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and then you generally provide a case file that's kind of a portable case with which they can also go through the extraction information using the Axiom program.
That's correct.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I would like to offer states 283 through 287 for record purposes only. And these are the search warrants concerning certain devices in this case.
cause no question.
I'm sorry, what number? 280, I'm sorry, 383 through 387. Now, hold on, yes, 383 through 387 are admitted for record purposes. Thank you, Your Honor. Now, did you receive several USB devices, 3 laptop computers, and a number of SIM cards from a Detective Ortiz back in, I believe it was December of 2022?
I think so. Can I reference my notes as well? Is that?
Yes, if you'd like to reference your notes to refresh your recollection.
It's kind of a lot. Sorry. I just want to refer to the note from my report as well. So, yeah. Yeah, December 1st, he brought them in, and there were 10 devices. Yes, 3 SIM cards, 4 USBs, and 3 laptops.
And then he brought the accompanying search warrant, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I think there were 5 in total.
5 search warrants?
I think so.
Now, I want to focus on just a couple of those devices. Now, the search warrant references in regards to the USB drives, just 4 USB drives and kind of the name of the USB drive. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and I'm showing you what's been already admitted as State's Exhibit 346. Does that appear to be the on-brand ONN?
Yeah. It looks like my label, and it looks like the same device as well.
Okay, and then your label, you generate a particular number, is that correct?
Right, so we try to barcode everything. We'll put the case number that is actually associated in our lab. Our lab will create a case number, and then we'll have a case number with the department or whatever agency we're servicing. And then we'll put a device number. So this one, it's 2022-59-4. So this would be like item 4 in my report. You would see that it's listed as item 4.
Okay, and short-term memory problem. This is this was a part of State's 352 and HP laptop.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
is this the HP laptop that you also received from Detective Ortiz?
Yes, it looks very familiar. It's damaged. It's got my label and numbers as well.
Okay.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
did you complete an extraction of this laptop as well?
I did.
Upon that extraction, did you create some reports concerning the contents of those 2 items?
Yes.
And Detective, I'm showing you what's been marked States 388 through 391. Now 388, is that just a photograph of that HP laptop?
That's correct.
Okay.
Device 8.
And then States 389, is that a photograph of that particular flash drive?
Yes, it is.
Okay, now States 390, is that a copy of your forensic examination?
It looks like it for sure. Yes. Yes. It's got all the information on it. But it appears to be mine, yes.
Okay. And does this include the 2 items in States 389 and 388, the
Yes.
extraction report of those items?
Right. It'll include those 2 and everything else as well. Yes.
Okay. And also 391, does that, States 391, does that appear to be your extraction report?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it does.
And that extraction report, again, is of items 388 and 389. I'm sorry?
Yes. I'm sorry, yes. Just looking. Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, State Office 388 through 391 for all purposes, Henry Defense Counsel. Now, all right, so it says it was 388 through 391 are admitted for all purposes. Thank you, Your Honor. Now, before we publish your examination reports, in total, there were over, 991,000
Yeah, artifacts.
artifacts. Can you
Right.
tell us what an artifact is?
Yeah, so the software, like in our case, Magnet Axiom, when it understands certain properties about all kinds of different devices. And so anytime it finds a piece of information that it understands, maybe it's a PDF file or an image, or it's a certain type of a file, then it declares that, it labels it as an artifact, basically. And then, so the process of review will go through out of all those artifacts and try to identify items of interest based on what the detective is looking for. So the report has in this particular case, had a pool of like, I usually put it in my report. So, yeah, over 911,000 artifacts were in that pool to go through, which is partly why it takes so long to process these devices.
So 911,000 artifacts, and that could be PDFs, Word files, anything that the program identifies as a piece of information.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, are you able to then kind of narrow the focus using the program to certain items?
Yeah, so the software is very good about categorizing stuff. So right off the bat, it'll categorize and it'll give you high level things. Like you'll have a category of media, for example, and then inside media, there might be all different types of files that have media, video files, images, different types of image files, those kind of things. So the software tries to break it down in what it understands at a high level. So you can kind of, if you want to look at communication, you can go to communication, then you can go into text messages or emails or whatever else and kind of break it down into stuff. So yeah, the tool is very robust, but a good tool for sure.
And the program itself, the Axiom tool, it takes quite a bit of, I guess, memory on a computer for it to be able to.
It can be. When there's a lot of artifacts, it can be a little bit of a, yeah. So another function of the lab will often let people come in and use a computer or something, because unfortunately not all of the computers that are given to people will run all these. I mean, it's not their fault. They have a lot of devices in their case. So yeah, we allow people to use our devices sometimes to look at their reports, for sure.
Commissioner Publish States 390, Your Honor. You may. Now, this is your forensics examination report, and looking at page 1, that's States 390. That's just your cover sheet. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. In this particular report, the case was generated December 16th, and the report was generated December 20th of 2022. Is that correct?
Yes.
We won't go through every page of this, but page 3 of this report, does this just kind of highlight each of the devices that you are attempting to extract information or have extracted information from using the Axiom program?
Right. So as we ingest or as we allow the software to go through and kind of identify artifacts, we will typically identify a piece of evidence with information like here. We typically will try to use the case number to the device number. Like you can see evidence items at 2022-59, that's the case, and then -10, that tells me that's device 10. So it's easy that way when you're looking at the reports, you can quickly identify what device it was found on.
Okay. And so in this case, you had 10 devices to extract and SIM cards and some flash drives and 3 laptop computers. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And we only see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 listed. What does that indicate to you?
Oh, well, yeah. Okay. So there were a couple of the drives on the Dells were encrypted. So they were able to be acquired, but acquiring encrypted data, I mean, it's not the acquisition isn't the difficult part. It's really understanding the data. So an encrypted drive, like most everybody's phones these days, is going to be encrypted. So yeah, we acquired it, but it's encrypted and it has no value in its encrypted state. So it's probably not included there. I would have to bring it up to look, but that would be my assumption.
Okay. And the next page, page 4, this is just kind of an example of, or is this an example of how this program kind of reports back to you certain, I guess, artifacts of interest?
So this is, the lab generates a couple of deliverables. We have an examiner report, which is a little more human readable and articulates kind of specific details related to what the detective is doing. This report is a more general report. As we're going through and processing the device, there'll be things that might be of interest. It might be a photograph that's related somehow, or things that as we're looking at the data, we think it could be of interest to the detective. So we'll typically tag all those as of interest. And at the end, I mean, and then we'll go through, of course, a review with the detective as well. An item, if you look at that first line, it says tags. In the software, you can identify, you can put stuff as evidence, you can create any kind of tag you want to tag all the pieces of data. But these are all of interest. We just try to produce a generic, not a generic, but a simple report of interest in this case.
Okay. And the first few pages, just items of interest of either Marano or is a user.
A lot of the devices will identify users of devices. And so that's something, of course, you want to identify right away, is try to identify who the device might belong to, and usernames and email accounts and all those things. Those typically get tagged as of interest because they potentially pursue an email account that they didn't know about, and they'll get legal process and they'll pursue that. So there's information potentially in here that they may or may not know already, so we'll tag it as potential of interest.
Okay, and just for the jury, just to kind of educate us on some of these things, the created date and time, it says 5/31 of 2020 at 2:47 p.m. Do you know if that is 100% accurate about when that was created, or can you give the jury kind of an explanation about it?
Dates and times are difficult with digital devices for the most part. It's kind of a hard question. I mean, there's people, it's almost like if you're an auto mechanic, that doesn't mean you can fix a transmission necessarily, because you probably want to take your car to a transmission mechanic for that. Dates and times is one of those things too. The whole field of data analysis is a broad field. And just like you go to a doctor, you don't just go to one doctor. If there's something wrong with your brain, you want to go to a brain specialist or something. It's similar to like that. There's people that could probably tell you a lot more about dates and times than I do. I approach dates and times with caution. This is probably a pretty accurate, I mean, it says it's the date it was created, but what that means is a little harder to define for this particular one that you're showing me right here. I don't feel like I'm answering your question.
No, it's complicated.
It is, yes, that's
Okay.
right. Especially when we have multiple devices with different operating systems and files being copied to and from USBs and all that stuff. All those dates interact and it gets really messy very quickly.
Okay. Now, looking here on page 6 of States 390, One of the of interest thing here is a username of Death Angel 7163, and that platform is Instagram, and the service is Instagram.com. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, it looks like the password is, these numbers, this combination of numbers and letters right there.
That's correct.
And then it appears on page 6 that, as opposed to page 4 of States 390, that these addresses are a combination of Lisa and Nina at Outlook.com, and have Nina Beltran and in Beltran, which before we had Nina Marano as the primary email address. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Looking on page 12 of States 390, does this appear to be a picture of a passport for Nina Beltran?
I'm sorry, was that a question?
Yes, does this appear to be a
Yes, it looks like that to me.
okay. And the issuance date on this picture appears to be September 20th of 2021. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, do you recall, I'm looking for the line here, what device you were able to extract that
Right. So if
particular?
you down at the bottom, you'll see source. And if you look at the ID number, you'll see it's the case number -4. So that would have been on the USB drive.
Okay, the on USB drive?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that particular drive seemed to have a lot of information that.
Yeah, it looked like it would had a lot of Dropbox related stuff copied to it.
Okay. Does this appear to be a passport for Lisa Beltran of the same issuance date?
Yes, ma'am.
Page 14 of States 390. Now, I don't expect you to know the relevance or importance of this, but does this appear to be?
I recognize it. Yeah.
You recognize that document?
Yeah, just because it was interesting because of the different fonts and stuff on it for the nation it's from.
Okay. Artisans Association of Cambodia, and it's addressed to both Nina Beltran and Lisa Beltran, and the date is October 24th, 2021.
Right.
Concerning the registered name Enterprise of B&B Enterprises LLC. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then we have Warren Buddy Enterprises LLC mentioned down at the bottom, with contact person of Nina Beltran. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Page 15 of States 390, appears to be a continuation of that letter. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And this particular part is talking about traveler information of Lisa Beltran, and kind of the trip purpose of identifying products that are marketable in the B&B target market, create relationships with manufacturers, undertake market research studies, and analyze the results to develop a strategy for growing a global outlet for the identified Cambodian products. Length of stay, 30 days.
Yes, ma'am. That's what it says.
Okay. Page 16 of States 390, this is another letter, and it appears to be directed to the Royal Embassy of Cambodia. And again, this is concerning the B&B Enterprises LLC. Is that correct?
Yes.
And this is concerning Nina Beltran, and it's to confirm that Nina Beltran is engaged in as the brand development director for B&B Enterprises LLC. This particular document is dated November 2nd, 2021. Is that appear correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I believe there's a sentence there. Ms. Beltran will be traveling to Cambodia from December 26th to 2021 to January 25th, 2022 for a total of 30 days to identify products that are marketable.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. State 17 appears to be pretty much the same letter from the same enterprise, but this one is for Lisa Beltran. Is that correct?
Yeah, Ms. Beltran, that's correct.
State, page 22 of States 390, does that should appear to be a marriage certificate for Nina Marano and Lisa Dykes?
Right.
Page 27. That should appear to be a United States passport card for Lisa Beltran with the issuance date of December 11th, 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
And does that appear to be a driver's license for Charles Anthony Beltran?
It looks like an ID card for,
And I'm sorry, it's an ID card.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, different than a driver's license.
Yes, ma'am.
Expiration date of 5/8/18.
Sorry. Yes.
That appear to be a birth certificate for the same individual.
Yes, Charles Beltran.
Now, here on page 44 of States 390, of interest, what is that file name? To a particular PDF, if you're aware.
I can't remember and I can't tell from just this. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I mean, I do have my computer if I need to look at it, but otherwise I can't tell. Sorry.
File name B&B Enterprises LLC _S4 PDF.
Mhm.
And then the author there appears to be the IRS. Is that the Internal Revenue Service? Is there?
Yeah, there were several EIN forms and stuff that were part of this case, so it could be a IRS form, I don't recall.
Sorry, what? I can't hear you.
There were several like correspondences from the IRS for these businesses, so the tax ID number, the EIN number. So there were forms from other entities on these devices. I couldn't say again, I'm sorry, without actually looking at the document. But the author is, so can I elaborate this?
Yes,
So
please
devices,
explain that.
different types of files can have other information. And you might have a file that's a picture, but it might have all kinds of stuff like on your phone. It might have where it was taken, who took it, what device took it, all that stuff. It's called metadata. And all kinds of files have metadata. PDF files, Word files, all these have metadata. And it may or may not be accurate, but so that author field there would probably come out. I would assume that came out of the metadata associated with this PDF file. And at the time that this was captured, it contained IRS in it.
States 46, I'm sorry, not States 46, page 46 of States 390 The file name here is the Lisa Beltran e-visa application PDF. Was that another item that was tagged of interest?
Yes, it was taken of interest.
Okay, and also the Lisa Beltran e-visa application, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
There on state's page 48 of state's 90 is that the pretrial conditions of bond that appears to be on the flash drive.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that is, again, this is the flash drive.
-4, makes
Dash
it flash drive. That's correct.
Now on page 60 of your report, this was tagged of interest in it. It says suspect Charles Beltran 0403-2021.wma. What kind of file is that?
It's a Windows media file.
Okay.
So it's, in this particular case, it was an audio recording. So it was a long audio recording,
About 2 hours and 11 minutes
something like that, yeah, of the interview.
of the interview of the co-defendant Charles Beltran.
That's correct.
And this was on device 8,
Yes, ma'am.
and that would be the HP laptop that we have.
That's correct. It was also on 4.
That same interview was also on the flash drive.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's listed on page 69
Okay.
of state's 390, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Also Windows media file suspect Charles Beltran 0403-2021.
Yes.
Okay, that was the actual recording.
Yes. Yeah, and you can, the two rows there, MD5 hash and SHA-1 hash, are basically file signatures that identify the contents. So if one of those matches to the other one, then you know the file's exactly the same. So that's kind of how we prove that files didn't change or that they were original, is we'll hash things. And you can think of it as like a fingerprint almost. It's kind of unique to a file. It's an algorithm that's generated, and if one little tiny bit in the file will change, you get a totally different number. So that's why the report also contains hash files, so all that can be verified.
So, I mean, just to kind of sum up, there are several other interest items tagged throughout this report, but whoever had possession of the laptop and of the flash drive also have possession of Charles Beltran's interview.
Yes, it appears so. Yes, ma'am.
Now, in state's 391, you did, I guess, a search, for lack of a better term, for a certain time frame that I asked you to look at for the flash drive and also the HP laptop. Is that correct?
Is this the one for today?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And looking at page 5 of states 391. It appears search, and these are, let me back up a little bit. What particularly did I ask you to look for, if you recall?
I'd have to see. Searches for passport, change name, form. Of course, this is going to be my scripted thing. It may not be exactly what you asked
Yeah, that's
for.
okay.
This is what I wrote down.
What things were you looking for?
Right. And then child support around 10.9 and passport photo portal. Those were kind of the main ideas that you were looking for. At least
Okay.
that's what I took.
And were many of these items Google searches?
Yeah, in different viewers, but yeah, Google searches were used, yes.
Okay. And so we have search term on record 1, page 5, it states 391. The search session starts 10/10/2020. Is that date fairly accurate?
I would expect so. It's
Okay.
not in our time zone, but it is, that time is correct, I would expect.
Okay.
Yes.
And again, same search term, passport photo tool online, 10/10/2020. Looking further down page 5, search term of passport appointment.
Mhm.
And that search appears to be done on 3/6/2020. You said,
10/6 of 20?
I'm sorry, 10/6/2020 at
Yes, ma'am.
3:33 p.m. Now that's in UTC time, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we,
It's
Back
6 or
up.
5, I always have to look. I can't
Okay.
find it myself, so yeah.
so we back up either 5 or 6 hours to
Correct.
find the appropriate time.
Right.
So as far as this is concerned, if it was 3:33 p.m., Matt
9,
Skills
10,
about 9 or 10 a.m.
Yeah.
On 10/6, is that correct?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay, and the search is for a passport appointment. Here at the bottom, record 4 is another search for a passport photo tool online. Looking here at page 7 of states 391, under review tags, it says username C Beltran 89, and the created date time is 10/9/2020,
Mhm.
about 8:25 p.m., which is about 3 p.m. Central Time.
Mhm.
And
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
the URL there is texassmartchildsupport.com. Is that
Yes, that's what it says.
okay? Looking at page 9 of states 391, it just appears to be 4 records of various passport renewal, free passport photos online, U.S. State Department Google search, and U.S. passports. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the first 3 are on 10/10/2020, and the U.S. passport renewal application is 10/6/2020.
Yes, ma'am.
Page 10 of states 391, again, are multiple passport agencies, Dallas passport agency searches and websites, all dated 10/6/2020.
That's correct.
So there were several of these tags based on that search for passports, and it appears that those tags occurred, or the created time was 10/6 of 2020 or 10/10 of 2020, in that range.
That's correct.
Okay. Here on page 14, does this appear to be a photograph of an individual?
Yeah, I tagged it because it looked like it could be a candidate for a passport photo with a background and all. And it was in the time of interest for you.
Page 15 of States 391, we're looking at record 2, and the file name is child support payment 10/19 of 2020. And then page page 18, that's the last page of your report, is that correct?
Yes, it looks like it.
Back up just a little bit. And that was just based on the passport search, child support search, in that time frame that
Correct.
I requested you to do this.
That's
work. Is that
correct. Yes, it is.
Your Honor, pass the witness.
Cross-examination.
Detective Hinton, when you were doing the searches, did you find any searches or information about asylum paperwork or asylum requirements that you recall?
I don't recall finding asylum. I don't think I searched for asylum either, though.
Okay, so you would have been actually searching for that.
Well, I mean, so all the information's still there, but when you search, then it's trying to find that key word in all these different artifacts. So you can still stumble across information all the time. That happens all the time, but I don't recall stumbling across asylum, and I don't remember that being part of the search criteria for us.
Okay. And there were over 900,000
Artifacts, that's correct, 911 over, yes.
Okay, did you find case files in there, since both of these individuals are in the legal profession, one being an attorney, one being a paralegal? Did you find case files regarding clients?
It looked like there were a lot of legal documents as well. Yes, ma'am.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Correct. All right. May this witness be found excused.
No objection from the state.
None from defense, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Detective.
Yeah,
Hinton.
thank you,
You're
ma'am.
free to leave and go about your business.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you all.
Call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Taylor Page.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Thank you. May be seated. Ms. Pittman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, can you state your name, spell your name for the court reporter, please?
Yep. My name is Taylor Page. It's spelled Taylorpage.
And can you tell the jury what it is you do for a living?
I'm a special agent with the FBI here in Dallas.
What are your qualifications that allow you to be a special agent?
We go through about a 5-month training program out in Quantico. We've got continued training once we're actually assigned to an office, both in the way of legal proceedings as well as some general tactical training and things of that nature.
How long have you been a special agent in the FBI?
Coming up on 6 years.
Always in Dallas?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you all sometimes work in conjunction with local law enforcement on certain violent crimes?
Yes, I'm assigned to a violent crimes task force. So we've got some FBI agents assigned, as well as officers or detectives from various local police departments around the area.
Now, as a special agent, what are some of the types of cases that you investigate, and kind of what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yep. So specifically, the Violent Crimes Task Force, as you may assume, is focusing on violent crimes. So robberies, specifically robberies of businesses. We'll also work kidnappings, carjackings, bank robberies, anything that's got kind of a violent nexus to it.
Are you also CAST certified?
Yes, I am.
And can you just tell the jury what CAST is?
Yep. So it's the Cellular Analysis Survey Team. So I'm a member of that team for the FBI. We go through various certification in order to look at and analyze cellular records and then map those records and create basically visual aids that would go along with it.
How is it that you, being part of the FBI, will become involved in a case, a state case or a local law enforcement case?
So usually that happens through some sort of correspondence with one of our task force officers. One of them is typically aware of some sort of an offense that may have occurred in their city, and they'll bring that forward so that the entire task force can have input and help with that, which was very much the case here.
And so in this particular case, do you recall when you were contacted, or the FBI was contacted to become a part of this case?
It was right around the middle of October. I don't know if I have the exact date, but sometime in the early to middle of October of 2020.
2020.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And who do you recall, if you remember, I guess discussing that with, and how did you get caught up to speed on what was going on?
I believe that came through one of our task force officers assigned with Dallas Police Department. She had made us aware that there was a missing persons case, that they weren't sure if it was a kidnapping. Basically, this gal had been unable to be located, and obviously then looked for some assistance from the task force in trying to locate her.
And FBI, to be fair, you all may have some more tools and things at your disposal that maybe local law enforcement doesn't have.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. More manpower, things of that nature.
Yeah, at least from the task force side of things, we have kind of a unique ability to put some more assets towards the specific cases that we're working on, whereas a normal detective may have dozens of cases that they're trying to work at any one time. Task force kind of allows us to put some more focus and effort into certain things.
Okay. And you said that you learned that a female had gone missing.
Yes, ma'am.
What information did you learn?
That she had flown in to Dallas from Seattle to visit a friend, had gone out in Deep Ellum area of Dallas, and didn't take her flight back out the next day that she was scheduled to leave, and hadn't had any contact with any family members since then.
And your primary focus in this case would be just to get any information you can about maybe where she went, what happened to her, things of that nature.
Yeah, at least from the task force side of things, our initial involvement was just trying to locate her, with the hope that she would still be alive somewhere. We were basically deployed to try to explore any options that may exist in order to assist with finding her.
Now, are you connected, or do you know all the things that local law enforcement are doing at the same time to locate this group?
No, ma'am. I mean, we'll know some things generally, but there's absolutely, I think in this particular case, there were several folks that were out there trying to canvass for video, do interviews. So we unfortunately didn't have communications to what every single person was doing.
As far as missing persons cases, when it comes to young people in that age group of 20, 23, 25, somewhere around there, do you have any idea how many calls Dallas gets, maybe on a daily basis, of young people missing?
I don't know the exact number, but I feel as though I recall during the course of this investigation learning that it was quite a few.
Okay. How often do you all get involved?
Not terribly often. The FBI's assistance usually comes in the form of Amber Alerts. So especially from the cast perspective, that's where I'll be involved in cases most likely is if there's an Amber Alert. We can usually look at things with some cellular records that can be helpful in that instance. In this particular one, like I said, one of our task force officers just identified that there was something that was just generally not right with someone flying in from out of town with a return flight that was booked. And they obviously had the perception that things were troublesome and needed a closer eye.
Okay. And so you learned that Marisela Botello had flown in, didn't return back on a return flight. What other things about that individual did you all learn that made you think that FBI needs to be involved?
So specifically, we had some information related to her bank transactions. And then during the course of our initial involvement, we also got some of her cellular records. And the combination of those two things were really kind of what led us to the point of identifying some folks that we thought may be of interest and kind of realized that there's probably something more to this than just, hey, she really liked Dallas and wanted to stay here.
At some point, did you develop what you would call a person of interest?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is a person of interest?
Person of interest is someone that law enforcement, I'd say, would like to speak to, that they probably haven't spoken with yet, but may have some information that would be beneficial to learn during the course of an investigation.
Okay. And were you all able to identify Charles Beltran as that person of interest?
Yes, ma'am.
And besides Charles Beltran, did you ever name anyone else as a person of interest, or?
I think the official naming of a person of interest came from Dallas PD in an email that I had, I think, drafted to them. I said that Charles Beltran is someone that we should absolutely talk to. But as far as the official naming of who may be a person of interest, I think that comes from Dallas PD.
Okay. And what was the reason that you all named Charles Beltran as a person of interest?
Yep. So during the first few days that we were looking through things, we had come across specifically some footage from 7-Eleven convenience store where Ms. Botello had a transaction, and we obtained some surveillance footage from that 7-Eleven where you could see Ms. Botello and another individual walk into the store, and Mr. Beltran had some pretty unique gauges in his ears, and we were able to marry up the footage from the 7-Eleven to some other video that we had seen on things, and we pretty quickly identified that he was the person that Marisela was with that night, and we thought it would be beneficial to talk to him, and so we said, hey, this would be a good person to try to focus on for things.
Okay, and that was right at the beginning of when you all were involved in the investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that, you said in the middle of October, about October 12th or so?
Yes, ma'am, that sounds correct.
Okay, were you able to identify residents of Mr. Beltran?
Yes, we identified a residence in Mesquite.
And did you all travel out to Mesquite to try to find him and talk to him?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were you able to develop a phone number for Mr. Beltran at that time?
At that time, we did not have a phone number for Mr. Beltran. No, ma'am.
Okay. Tell the jury about your trip out to Mesquite to try to locate Mr. Beltran.
Yep. So we went to, I believe the address was 3113 Kensington, because we had identified a vehicle that was associated with Mr. Beltran, black Audi that I believe came back as registered to that address. So during the course of investigating other folks that may be associated to that address, and again, trying to locate Mr. Beltran, we came up with Ms. Dykes' name and information related to her.
Okay. And when you went out there, was anyone at the residence?
No one answered the door, so we rang the doorbell.
Were you able to locate a phone number or any contact information for Ms. Dykes?
Yes, ma'am.
And how were you able to locate that?
I believe that was a combination of the Texas workforce information as well as information associated with some prior Mesquite Police Department reports where I think a phone number was listed as well.
And these prior Mesquite Police Department reports, did you review those reports?
I did not personally, no, ma'am. Not that I can recall.
So you don't know what they were about?
No, ma'am.
Now, were you able to contact Ms. Dykes?
So when we went there to ring the doorbell, I also called the phone number that we had listed for Ms. Dykes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did she answer the phone?
She did.
And what was your conversation with her?
Trying to be very cordial, just because obviously we're showing up without notice to someone's house. So we brought a uniformed Mesquite police officer with us. There's a ring doorbell, so it's kind of trying to. If you have an FBI agent calling on the phone, a lot of folks know that there's scams that get associated with that. So we're trying to make our presence known and identify who we were. So standing in front of the ring doorbell, kind of waving, showing the uniformed officer that was with us, and kind of stated, hey, we're here. We'd like to hopefully get in touch with Mr. Beltran.
And what was Ms. Dykes' response?
She said that she hadn't seen Mr. Beltran in 3 to 4 weeks, and I asked if I could inquire about the nature of their relationship, and she said she didn't wish to speak with me any further on things with that.
Okay. It is a pretty short phone call.
Yeah, I think it lasted a few minutes maybe by the time I got an answer and then tried to go through who we were. So, yeah.
At any point during that conversation, did she indicate that she didn't believe who you were or anything of that nature?
Not that I can recall. I know that we kind of went out of our way to stand in front of the ring camera just to try to show some level of verification of who we were.
Were you able to get a phone number or any information about Mr. Beltran?
No, ma'am. I asked for forwarding information and none was provided.
What did you do after that point in your investigation?
So shortly after that, from an FBI perspective, in order for us to continue to pursue investigating things, we have to have some sort of a federal nexus or federal component to continue. So at this one, at the onset, I think I mentioned, we looked at it as a possible kidnapping because there wasn't any indication of how exactly or what happened to Ms. Botello after she left the downtown area. When we came about the video from 7-Eleven that showed her going into the store very willingly, she looked like she was smiling at the time. From an FBI perspective, again, we kind of said, hey, this doesn't look like a kidnapping anymore. This looks like someone that's voluntarily with Mr. Beltran making this purchase. So we said, hey, in order for us to keep going on this, we need an official request. And that kind of goes into the other way that the FBI can get involved in things is through official requests from state and local partners. And at that time, there was no official request for the FBI to continue investigating.
Prior to, I guess, this phone call, because I asked you what you did after this phone call, trying to locate Mr. Beltran, were there some other actions that you all took in your investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were those?
We attempted to interview or go canvas, I guess I should say, for video, interview folks in the Deep Ellum area that may have possibly seen Ms. Botello.
And were you able to locate anyone in that area at that time?
One of our task force officers came across someone at Reno's that said that they saw someone that fit the description of Marisela on the night of the 5th.
Okay. And what was that description?
I think it was a stature description, so kind of the black hair, and then that person, again, this is coming through an email from another task force officer, but that person said that they saw someone that fit the description that was, I think they used the words tweaking out and asking for a cigarette.
Okay. And stature-wise, Marisela was small in stature.
Small in stature, yes, ma'am.
About 5 foot tall, maybe 100 pounds.
I don't know if there was specifics that were given from that person that our task force officer spoke with, but just generally fit a close enough description that it was worth some follow-up.
Okay. And young Hispanic female?
I don't know for sure.
You don't know
I don't know for sure what he spoke to that person about.
Okay. But that does describe Ms. Botello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is that I don't want to say common because she's an individual, but is that a fairly common, I guess, description or just individual in this area, in the Dallas area?
I mean, I don't know what the exact demographic breakdown is, but I would imagine that several people would fit that description, yes.
Okay. Now, so that nexus now is gone, and you all are not involved in the investigation at that point, is that correct?
That's correct.
At what point did you get back involved with the investigation?
I think the FBI received a formal request from Dallas Police Department to kind of re-involve themselves in the middle of November.
And why did they ask you all to re-involve yourself at that point?
I think that there was still some genuine concern that she was unable to be located at that point. Again, things relating maybe to cell phone records that we could try to do some exploitation on, and I'm sure a manpower portion of that as well.
Okay. At some point, were you able to, I guess, get a phone number for Mr. Beltran?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, did you try to contact him?
I don't recall if I specifically tried to contact him. I'm certain someone did, though.
Okay. As in November, how did you all start back up in your investigation?
When we first got back into things, I believe there were, again, some historical cell records that we were trying to take a look at to see where folks were in order to interview them, as well as then interview some coworkers and associates of Ms. Dykes and Mr. Beltran.
And were you again able to locate some of these people and interview some of these people?
Yes, the FBI, or at least the task force, was able to do that. Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall who all you interviewed?
There were several folks from Ms. Dykes' former employer, and then some, I think it was primarily females that were associated to Mr. Beltran, and don't really recall everyone's name, though.
Okay, it was one of those Medellin Alvarez.
That sounds correct.
Okay, and Olivia Ramirez, as far as a coworker, Ms. Dykes, Olivia Ramirez.
That sounds accurate as well, yes, ma'am.
Were you able to talk to some of Mr. Beltran's friends, Dak Stevens?
Yes, ma'am.
And had any of them heard from him in some time?
I think, and again, I think Medellin is probably the only one that had seen him with any recency.
And you learned from her that she had taken him up to Pennsylvania
Yes, ma'am.
and left him there.
Yes, ma'am.
The historical cell phone records, were you able to, based on those, the analysis of those records, what steps did you take in your investigation at that point?
So the cell phone records were beneficial in trying to locate places of interest that may be worth searching for Ms. Botello. So at least when we kind of re-involved ourselves with things, that was when we started to develop an area in South Dallas that may be of interest in going to search as it related to the location of those records historically.
And did you all kind of search those areas?
Yes, ma'am. So originally there was one site in South Dallas that was searched which was unsuccessful in finding anything that was down in the area where those records were.
South Dallas, was that kind of the Wilmer area?
That's correct.
Okay, was that near like a concrete?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
And, I mean, did you all, I guess, were there several individuals out there as part of this?
I think we had several dozen that were out there searching that area.
What other steps did you take in your investigation during the November time?
And just to be clear, that first search was after the November timeframe. But I kind of think we more or less reached the point, at least from what I can readily recall, of what the FBI was able to assist with at the onset. I think shortly after that, the case got transferred over to a different unit within the Dallas Police Department, which kind of took the lead on things, and obviously decision-making for investigations then.
Okay. So once the SIU, then you're talking about the Special Investigations Unit,
Yes, ma'am.
once they took over, they kind of also took over the decision making, is that correct?
I think that's probably fair to say, yes, ma'am.
When, after that point, you stated that you all had conducted a search out in an area near a concrete plant near Wilmer, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did you learn the area of where Marisela's body was found?
Again, we're now kind of moving a couple months after the fact, but yes, at some point in, I think, March of 21, we did find that Marisela's body was recovered in an area close to where we were searching.
Okay. From November to the point of when her remains were found in Wilmer, do you recall what other steps you took in your investigation at that time?
I think we were, at least from an FBI perspective and the task force perspective, we were trying to help locate Ms. Dykes, Mr. Beltran, in order to, again, get in front of them to be interviewed. So we were focusing on both of them having left the Dallas area and going to various other spots. We found information related to border crossings for them. And again, just trying to develop, where they might be. And then in the course of that, obviously learn information about things potentially related to the investigation that we wanted to pass on to SIU.
Okay. And so you learned that they were making border crossings during the month of December.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you ever able to locate via cell phone pings or anything of that nature where they were traveling around in the United States?
I believe there were records that went into kind of the northeast area, but I would want to see the actual records in order to say that definitively.
Okay. And were you able to use some of the investigative tools at your disposal to locate that they at some point traveled to the Florida area?
Yes, ma'am. I think we were able to figure that out through associations to vehicles that came back as being registered to Ms. Dykes or an associate that suggested that they were down in Florida.
And you were passing this information along to the Dallas Police Department?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at some point, did you learn that Ms. Dykes and Ms. Marano have been arrested in the Florida area?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were you all a part of trying to locate Mr. Beltran after their arrest in Florida?
No, ma'am.
Okay. After the point of their arrest, what role did you have in any investigation at that point?
Following their arrest, there was nothing substantive related to the murder investigation that we were involved in until such time as we were told that the ankle monitors were removed and they had probably fled the country.
And what information did you receive that led you to believe that they had fled the country?
We had information that they were at DFW airport. I think that we somehow, it may have been SIU that knew that they caught a flight out of the international terminal. I can't remember where that information came in from, but we knew that they were at the airport.
And at that point, how did you get back involved in the investigation? Is that also a situation where Dallas Police Department has to specifically ask for your help?
Yes, that's correct. So we can open a fugitive investigation related to unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, which is what happened in this case once we got that request from Dallas PD.
Once you got that request, what steps did you take?
Trying to go back through and trace steps to locate where they may have flown to. So pretty quickly we were able to establish that they flew out of DFW into Seoul, South Korea, and then from there took a flight from South Korea into Cambodia. The FBI does have folks that are stationed in various major cities throughout the world, so we're able to kind of work through some liaison contacts and requests for information from those other cities and agents to actually learn that they seemed to be like they were stationary in Cambodia. And
after that information, what what did you do next?
We kind of tried to leverage our fugitive investigation as best we could to develop where in Cambodia they may be. Obviously, doing that from the United States is not a particularly easy thing. So we relied heavily on the folks that were over in Cambodia. Basically found out bank accounts of relevance and said, hey, here's some information that we hope y'all can use. They were able to get video of ATM withdrawals over in Cambodia, and then ultimately identify folks that knew where they were staying, and then effect an arrest over there.
Okay. And at some point, you kind of turned that over to Kathleen Nichols as far as being a person in Cambodia, a special agent assigned there in her task force as far as location.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. After they were arrested in Cambodia, how did they get back here to the United States?
Flew over there and got them. So that was a few months later. Some other folks that were on the Violent Crimes Task Force and I went over in a commercial flight to Cambodia, picked them up, and brought them back where they landed at DFW airport and were transferred into DPD custody.
How was that flight back?
It was long. It was a very long flight.
Just for the jury that doesn't know, when you are transporting a prisoner on that kind of flight, like where do you have to sit?
To the extent that the airlines can help, they will put us in the back of planes or somewhere that's not directly next to the general public. If you have a totally full flight, usually we try to occupy single rows by ourselves. So we've got our subjects in the middle of us in the event that we would need to take action of some kind. So in this particular instance, there were generally full planes, and we were kind of bookended on both subjects as we were escorting them back.
Okay. How many agents went to Cambodia?
I think there were 6 of us total.
Now, all right, at this time I would like to offer States 392, and this is some business records affidavit. Some business records that have been on file with the business records affidavit for more than 14 days to enter into defense counsel.
However, no objection, Your Honor.
Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor, sorry. No objection, Your Honor.
State's Exhibit 392 is admitted for all purposes.
Commissioner Beltran.
You may.
Now, there's 134 pages of what's just been admitted as States 392, just various leasing records for Kensington. 3113 Kensington Drive, Mesquite, Texas. Was that the address that you all were able to identify as where Lisa Dykes and Charles Beltran lived?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And just looking at this, does it appear that Ms. Dykes had just renewed her lease on 10/1 of 2020?
It does say that is the commencement date of this. Yes, ma'am.
And it appears that was for another year lease. Is that correct?
I don't recall ever having read that full lease, but that's what it looked like was stated on there. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, the date that Marisela went missing was just days later. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Based on your investigation into Ms. Dykes and Charles Beltran, was there any indication prior to the murder of Marisela Beltran that they intended on leaving the area, traveling?
I'm sorry, that Ms. Dykes and Mr. Beltran
Yes.
intended to do. So we had information that they were in Arkansas for some sort of a concert, I believe it was. But as far as travel beyond that, nothing that we found was indicative of that. No, ma'am.
Okay. And visiting with Ms. Dykes' fellow employees, did you learn that she had been employed there for quite some time?
I don't recall her entire tenure, but they did say that her leaving was very abrupt.
Your Honor, pass the witness.
But when you say that her leaving was very abrupt, she had already told you, I don't know if you have your report, but she had already told the owner over there that she was having issues from her surgery, right?
I'm not sure what she told the owner. I was in saying that it was abrupt. I think there was at least one interview with a coworker that was surprised by her leaving in the fashion that she did.
Okay, the coworker don't know why she left, right?
I'm not sure about that. No, sir.
Speculating, right?
They could be, yes, sir. I'm not sure what other knowledge they may have had.
Okay. Let me specifically ask you about I want to make sure I ask you, because I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but you guys talk to a lot of people, right?
I don't know about a lot, but there were definitely some folks that were canvassed for and trying to get witness statements from. Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you aware that after you went to Ms. Dykes' home to try to talk to her, that her address suddenly appeared on social media?
No, sir.
And then they started getting phone calls and threatening messages?
No, sir. I've not been made aware of that.
But if you're familiar with this case, you know that there was a lot of social media interest, wasn't it?
There was definitely social media interest. Yes, sir.
And I think you indicated that y'all got in front of the ring camera because y'all wanted to make sure that she saw that y'all were legit with the Mesquite police.
Yes. Yes, sir. I apologize for interrupting. Yes. Like I said, especially if we're making phone calls to folks and there's a situation where we can't readily show our credentials, we want to make sure that whoever we're talking to, again, knows that it's actually the FBI that's there and not some sort of a phone scam.
Well, did you show her your
I don't recall showing my credentials. I think I identified myself on the phone and I said, hey, we've got a uniformed officer that's here with us.
Yes, sir. And I just want to make sure I'm clear on this, at this Reno location where was that one of your officers that made contact with someone, with a patron, that believed that they saw someone that fit Morello's?
Ms. Botello's? Yes. That was one of our task force officers that went there, found someone that said that they thought they saw someone on the night of the 5th that fit Ms. Botello's description. Yes, sir.
Okay. And I understand that you said that, well, that description could have fit several people, right?
Yes, sir.
More importantly, the description that they gave fit her description, correct?
With the exception of not having on the purple dress. Yes.
I mean, that was the day after.
I think within the 24 hours. Yes, sir.
I mean, she's seen with Charles Beltran at the 7-Eleven during the early morning hours, right?
Yes, sir.
But they left that area, right?
Yes.
So is it possible she came back in a different outfit?
I don't know what would have been possible at that point. My recollection of viewing that video, we could not make out if it was Ms. Beltran on that. I'm sorry, Ms. Botello on that video.
But you couldn't say for sure what?
No, it was not. It was good enough quality. No, sir.
And I mean, just lastly on that subject, I mean, the patron was served enough. You guys took the time to go and find that video, didn't you?
I think it's worth following up on, especially at that stage of the investigation where we were.
Because again, you never know what's going to help you guys find these missing people.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
That's why when people call in, if they say they see someone, it's important that y'all follow up, correct?
I would caveat that with saying, with respect to other information that's known during the course of an investigation. Yes, sir. Because there are times when you can get tips that may be completely irrelevant based on other case knowledge that you have.
Okay. But if shortly after she's alleged to have gone missing, a security guard is showing a photo of Ms. Botello, says, yeah, I saw her, that's something we want to follow up on. Will you agree?
I'm not sure if it was a security guard that he spoke to, but if someone says that they saw her in the early stage of an investigation, yes, you'd want to follow up on that.
Agree with me that October of 2020 is still the early stages of this investigation, right?
Yes, sir.
And if they go to not one but two different locations showing this photo, and those people say, we believe we saw her over near the City Inn, over near the Mustang Inn, that's something you're going to want to follow up on, isn't it?
Again, if I'm the lead investigator on that, I would probably want to have some folks go out there and take a look at those spots. Yes, sir.
Can I put it back over there?
Yep.
Thank you. I just don't want to.
No, thank
And are you sure that they never got the patron's name that said that he saw someone that fit her description?
I do not know. I was not the one that spoke with that patron of that bar.
And just so members of the jury are clear, if you're a person of interest, you don't have to cooperate with law enforcement, do you?
No, you don't. No, sir.
If you want to go to Mexico, you can go to Mexico, right?
Yes, sir. Assuming you've got the correct paperwork to do so. Yes, sir.
Yes, but I'm just saying, if you're a person of interest, you don't have to cooperate.
No, sir.
In fact, even after you're arrested with an arrest warrant, you don't have to cooperate, do you?
That's correct, sir.
And when y'all went out to the Wilmore area initially, did I hear you correct in saying that you were a part of that initial search?
Yes, sir.
And y'all didn't find anything at that time, right?
No, sir.
Had you found anything that you felt was connected to this disappearance, y'all would have noted that?
I would certainly hope so. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Can you redirect?
No, Your Honor.
May this witness be found excused?
No objection from
No
the state.
objection, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're free to leave and go about your business.
Thank you, ma'am.
Call your next witness.
The state calls Vanessa Pozos. This is a short one. Short one.
No worries. Take your time. If you would please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. Ma'am, can you state your name and spell your name for the court, please?
Yeah. Vanessa Pozos, Vanessa Pozos.
Are you nervous?
Yeah.
Okay. Take a deep breath, relax. Let's just talk about how do you know Marisela Botello?
Dear friend of mine. We met when we worked together at the store that she was an assistant manager in, and I was hired through the pandemic, and we just met. We were just grew as great friends.
Okay, and so what store was this that you all worked at?
Charlotte Roos.
What kinds of, I guess, responsibilities did you have at Charlotte Russe?
Stocking the merchandise, making sure the store was, presentable for our customers. It was kind of like shortly after the pandemic, so we were just kind of like opening up with some restrictions, like closed off fitting rooms, and just talking to the customers and seeing what we can help them with. If they were shopping for something particular, we would just talk to our customers and help them out in any sort of way.
Okay, and this was in Seattle?
Yes.
Is it actually in Seattle or a little town up right outside of Seattle?
It's called Tequila. It's a well-known mall called South Center. Yeah.
And how long did you all work there together?
Well, I was hired in January of 2020, and up to the date, up to like the last day that she flew out.
The last day she flew out. So she flew out on October 2nd?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you work the day before?
Yeah, we were working together, and we were just talking, and she basically just said her goodbyes, before she was gonna go home and pack.
And was she was an assistant manager, is that correct?
Yes.
What was your position?
Sales representative.
Okay.
So just like right below her.
Just right below her.
Yeah.
She was your supervisor.
Yeah.
Okay. And did she start out as an assistant manager, or was that something she promoted to?
It was something that she was already, positioned at when I joined the team. So I'm not sure, to be honest.
Okay. As far as Marisela is concerned, did you all spend a lot of time together between January and October?
Oh, most definitely.
And did you get to know her family?
I met her family briefly on the times that we did go to her apartment, but I mostly just picked her up like outside of her apartment, just texted her, hey, I'm outside, just picking her up like when we would hang out. I do remember hearing her parents talk one of the nights that we did come home a little late, about like 9 or 10 p.m. is considered late, and but mostly everybody was already asleep, so we just stayed quiet.
Okay, so you just kind of briefly met them, but what kind of household? You went into her apartment. What kind of household was it?
Well, the Hispanic household is very clean, organized, quiet, very respectful, very respectful. You're gonna show up at, you have like what is it called? A curfew, that you have to get home to, and just very respectful family.
What types of things socially would you and Marisela do?
Just hang out. Well, I was 21 at the time, and she was 23 at the time. Oh, wait, 22. I was 20, sorry, forgot. I was 22 at the time. So we would just casually go to Alki Beach. It's like a really common beach in Seattle. It's like a close body of water. There's scooters there. Sunsets are beautiful to catch whenever you're there. It's a very touristy beach. That was like mostly our hangout spot. There's bonfires that go on during the summer. But what we would do socially is literally just bring my Bluetooth speaker, drive around, cruising is the word, just hang out, just stay away from people, because, it was like kind of like shortly after the pandemic. So it was just me and her most of the time. We didn't really have like a big drive around, cruising is the word, just hang out, just stay away from people, because, it was like kind of like shortly after the pandemic. So it was just me and her most of the time. We didn't really have like a big drive around, cruising is the word, just hang out, just it was just me and her most of the time. We didn't really have like a big
Sorry, guys. Something's gone wrong. So I'll try to figure it out. It's like it cut off or something. So bear with me. Let me see what's going on. See, it's okay. It's not me. Everybody else is people in the chat are saying what's going on. So it's not, it's actually them. It's not us. The live is, yeah, the live has gotten messed up somehow. 6.
Dallas police see the man who killed 4 neighbors.
Yeah, the people in the chat were saying, what's going on? What's going on? It's cut off. Yeah, it's cut off. So I don't know. Man, are they gonna, oh man, that's a bummer. All right, sorry. I'm gonna end the stream because apparently it's done. They just cut it off, and that's really frustrating. Or it blanked out or something. But oh gosh, oh bummer. And I'm not in the chat anymore either. But you saw the people saying, "What's happened? What's happened?" The live chat.
I didn't want to start another makeup
The
brand.
chat's
I was
over.
done.
All
This
right.
product is honestly the
So,
reason that I started Jones Road Beauty.
All right, so I'll end the stream. If it comes back on, I'll log back on, and you guys, I guess if you would subscribe to me, you get a notice that it's on again. So, but it seems to me it for some reason has ended, even though the girl was still testifying. So, all right, sorry guys. Bye.